Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, December 12th, 2012. According to the Insurance Insider now, losses from Superstorm Sandy in the U.S. are now past $9 billion. Property Claims Service, the industry organization that offers estimates, had pegged the loss estimate of a total of $11 billion shortly after the storm. Now, only 6 weeks later, the $9 billion is coming within sight of that $11 billion figure. The loss moved a little bit this morning when Chubb announced that it's going to take an $800 million loss. The Chubb loss is significant in that this one is actually going to hit the reinsurance layers. Apparently, according to information in the marketplace, it is believed that Chubb's program provides it with about $1.5 billion of reinsurance in excess of a $500 million retention. So that means that Chubb pays the first $500 million, then passes off the rest to its reinsurers. So if they came in with an $800 million loss, that's going to mean $300 million passed on to the reinsurers. So far, the losses for the reinsurance community are Swiss Re, which has estimated a $900 million loss. Montpelier Re down in Bermuda came in with a $95 million loss. Munich Re, for some reason, is estimating that they expect to come in on approximately $650 million. Although this estimate came out relatively early in the process and is believed that it's going to be closer to the Swiss Re estimate. Similarly, no London market reinsurers have yet put an exact tag on the loss yet, although today is thought to be the day for the deadline for Lloyd's syndicates to submit their loss estimates to the franchise board in London. So we'll see how that goes. In Asia, North Korea apparently has successfully launched a long-range rocket. In defiance of critics, they lobbed a satellite up into space. They're claiming it's a weather satellite. The North American Air Defense Command in Colorado in the U.S. confirms that, quote, an object has achieved orbit following the launch. The launch went up at about 10 a.m. Korean time this morning. In Lloyd's latest three-year plan, they seem to be going back to the future. They're clearly stating that they're going to look more favorably on non-aligned startups than those backed by corporate capital. What this means is that in the 1980s, after the asbestos catastrophes in Lloyd's and the company was running out of money and the syndicates were in danger of insolvency, Lloyd's turned in a very major way to corporate names, i.e. corporate capital backers, to back the underwriting of the individual syndicates. Previous to that, private backers, or so-called names, private names, had been the backers of the syndicates. They're now very much in the minority at Lloyd's. Lloyd's is now saying that in the future, they would like to change the capital structure to move more back toward the individual participation. This would require some innovation and some ease of filing on their part that they claim they're going to do. They want to encourage startup syndicates and invigorate third-party capital by returning to the names. The U.S. Geological Survey is reporting that there were 2 quakes in the Caribbean. There was a 4.5 quake in Costa Rica early this morning, didn't do any damage or cause any deaths. And earlier, about 1 o'clock in the morning our time, there was an earthquake in Puerto Rico of about 2.6. It was located about 60 miles west of San Juan. Hector Sanz is a name you might know. He's the former regulator from the Financial Services Authority in London. He's now been appointed as the head of compliance and government and regulatory relations at Barclays Bank. Interestingly enough, Mr. Sanz, who will start the role at the end of January next year, stepped down from the FSA 6 months ago, the same month in which the FSA fined Barclays about £60 million for manipulating LIBOR rates. Honda is recalling more than 800,000 minivans and SUVs in the United States because they can roll away even though drivers have removed the key. This affects 318,000 Odyssey minivans, 260,000 Pilot SUVs, as well as 230,000 Acura MDX SUVs. Honda says a system that stops the key from being removed unless the vehicles are in park can wear out. Eventually, drivers can pull the key out while the minivans and SUVs are still in gear and the cars can roll off and crash. We've talked a lot about the plethora of gas pipelines running throughout the United States and how they sometimes explode, causing great damage. Here's a new one. Along Interstate 77 in West Virginia, about 15 miles outside the capital city of Charleston yesterday, a natural gas line explosion caused about 800 feet of the interstate to literally melt. The blast yesterday afternoon between Sissonville and Pocatello melted guardrails, cooked the green enamel off highway signs, burned utility poles, left a huge hole in the highway, and turned the asphalt to cinder. It's a miracle no one was killed. Part of the roadway is already reopened, and the State Transportation Authority is scrambling crews and contractors. I'll tell you, if you ever drive along the New Jersey Turnpike and look at those gas pipelines, you have to begin to wonder. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.